What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. We have a big week of gaming reveals ahead of us with multiple shows, and I'm sure some pretty big surprises and shadow drops, so wouldn't you know it, over the last few days, more things have started to appear online, seemingly leaking out ahead of these different presentations, and we'll sort of do a quick roundup of some of the big ones here today. Also, we are going to be talking about a significant delay that's hit Microsoft, but when you kind of look at their current release lineup heading towards GTA 6, it does kind of make sense. And then we have more handhelds from the PC gaming space that's showing up, and while the prices are high, I am kind of hopeful based on some of the big players that are entering the scene that maybe can start to challenge AMD a bit, but we'll go over all of that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton, and if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. Guys, we're here every weekday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, going over the world of gaming news, so if you're trying to keep up to date but you don't necessarily see a notification, just know there's probably a video here to check out in the morning, and we're going to start today with Asha, Sharma, and Xbox, because there was a whole dust up over the last few days when it comes to Xbox showing other company logos at their big showcase that's going to be happening next weekend, as Matt Booty did confirm that, yes, you will see PlayStation logos or Nintendo logos if those games are going to those platforms. Didn't go over necessarily the best online. People are kind of frustrated with the idea of removing the focus from the Xbox itself at its own presentation, and in fact, Asha Sharma actually responded over this, so we can see. This is over on Twitter X saying, Asha says, seeing the feedback on logos, it was a miss, and I own it. We're talking about how we adjust for future Xbox shows. So obviously the show that we are going to see in this upcoming weekend from Microsoft has probably been in motion for months now, most likely preceding when Asha Sharma took over at the top of Xbox. And even then, some of the games been in development for quite some time, also targeting, say, PlayStation 5, as we see with something like Halo. We'll see with Gears, but look, there's going to be a number of games that are just multi-platform at this event. I think the idea is just the presentation and taking the focus off of the Xbox itself. Does it really matter at this point for Microsoft when they themselves have taken the focus off the Xbox Series and are already talking about Helix? Probably not, no, but it is worth at least taking feedback from the community. But I will say, to Asha Sharma, you don't necessarily have to respond to every single thing out there, especially on social media, because if you let social media run the platform for really any of these companies, they'd probably be exiting faster than the Dreamcast did back in the day. Also, not to get people's hopes up, if you're someone who's really invested in Destiny and want to see Destiny 3, there's a whole push right now around the idea of logging in, say on June 9th, and people are going back and forth if that's going to make a difference. Well, like you can see, this is over on social media from DMG04, who's the principal comms manager for Destiny and Bungie. They've been making all kinds of different posts like, do not go gentle into that good night. I mean, over 1 million impressions on this thing. People, of course, getting hyped up around the idea of, wait a minute, is this like a rallying cry for people to try to make a stand here for Destiny? And I mean, I said, look, the petition is one thing. It's like, okay, you might be able to at least get an eyebrow raise out of it. If a lot of people log in on June 9th and Sony goes, that's a lot of people. I mean, look, they could always greenlight Destiny 3. I do think that's possible. And sure, you can attempt to sway them. That's probably the best bet, is logging in and showing that it's not just like clicking a button and putting your name there that may or may not even be your actual name. You know, just people are just typing in whatever to sign, say, a digital petition. If you take the time to download like 180 gigabytes or something for Destiny 2 and then log in all at once on June 9th and even play a bit, they'll see you as someone who's actually participating in it, and yeah, okay, maybe it is worth pursuing Destiny 3. At least that's the hope, and when you have rallying cries like these, that's kind of what you have, is at least hope. Oh, and we have some big news for Hollow Knight Silksong fans, something I've been waiting for, a physical copy, and we can see, this is over on Gamatsu, it says Fangamer has announced a physical edition of Hollow Knight Silksong, PS5, Xbox Series, and Switch 2, and it's going to launch October 16th. It'll be $40 on PS5 and Xbox Series. It's an additional $5, so $45 on the Switch 2. I will note, though, that the Switch 2 version is the Switch 1 with the upgrade pack built into the cartridge, so really what you're getting is a Switch 1 and a Switch 2 game. So that's cool because, if you buy it and you're only on the Switch 1 right now, and you're thinking of upgrading down the road or something, it'll still work there, and you'll get the benefit of the newer hardware. Get this, though, comes with a manual, 32-page game manual, and a poster. Was it the 90s? So I will absolutely be buying this, yeah, and I pick it up on the Switch too. And you know what? We'll do a whole unboxing for it because there's a manual in there, and that's that on its own is weird and kind of spoiling the surprise of opening it. But you know, it'd be a lot of fun to check it out in October. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with what should be a jam-packed week for gaming announcements, and a lot of surprises, I'm sure. Again, some of which already sort of getting out there at this point. And so I was going through them and just making a list so we can rapid fire these, but I'm sure even by the time this video is out, there'll probably be more stuff as it tends to happen. We have a State of Play tomorrow, and then a Summer Game Fest to close out the week, and then we roll right into the weekend with the Xbox event. And then most likely, I'm gonna say most likely, the following week, a Nintendo Direct maybe? There are already rumors going around that a Direct will be happening before Summer Game Fest. That sounds kind of crazy, so because then we'd go State of Play, Direct, Summer Game Fest, Xbox show. That would actually feel like a jam-packed E3 week. And you know, I'm kind of here for that if it happens. But otherwise, you know what, an extra week for the Direct, it's fine. Again, probably 100-something games getting announced then over the course of the next 2 weeks. So, naturally, you start to see some stuff pop up. As Sony goes ahead and puts up an entire countdown for their State of Play, Call of Duty 1, or Black Ops 1 and 2 get rated in South Korea. And this one, I saw it, I was like, hold on a minute. Is it possible that we will see a remastered collection of some kind? And we've seen this happen with previous Call of Duty games, but usually when it does happen, it's just the campaign. Now, look, the campaign for Black Ops 1 and 2 are still very memorable and awesome, and who knows, maybe they tap into zombies as well as a mode, and that would be really cool. Like, if you had online zombies along with the campaign, yeah, I definitely have to pick that up. But even so, just a remastered collection of Black Ops 1 and 2, I think would be very interesting to see, especially if it does come over to something like the Switch 2. So they released it across all the different platforms now. So like we already have the reintroduction of Call of Duty to Nintendo platforms with Modern Warfare 4 happening later this year. But if they have Black Ops 1 and 2 remastered, that would still be worth picking up and revisiting all over again. The only pause I have here with these ratings is we've seen it before with classifications for previous Call of Duties, and nothing happened. So I don't know if this might just be a like regulation thing, like boring paperwork that has to happen every now and then, but something to at least keep in mind. Another thing we saw in terms of ratings boards over on PEGI, we did have Ace Combat 8. That was rated, and we're kind of expecting that now, by the way, to get dated. It's supposed to be coming out later this year, and we have a run of different events, so I wouldn't be shocked if it was at the State of Play or at the Summer Game Fest, and we do see a full-on release date for it. Hopefully, I'm going to say sooner rather than later, because it's getting packed as we get closer and closer on the run-up to GTA 6. A lot of these publishers are trying to get the release dates in ahead of November 19th, so I'm hoping that we get, say, Ace Combat, even honestly as soon as like August, even though that'd be a pretty quick turnaround from now to then. It would be better than coming in like a week or two before GTA 6 releases. We talked last week about Rayman Legends Retold, but there's another Rayman game that should be announced this week, and like it popped up on the Xbox store. Wario64 did get a screenshot of it, and it's $2,000. I mean, you know what? Not hard to believe in this economy. No, I think that's just a placeholder, so it's probably $19.99. Anyway, it popped up on the Xbox store here, 4K, 60 FPS, modern enhancements including quality of life features. And so here's what's going to happen, okay? We have this one, and then Rayman Legends Retold, which over on D-Labs, they had the entire release date, the pricing, everything set up for it. So we're looking at October 1st for this game to come out. There will be a physical edition for PS5 and Nintendo Switch 2 specifically, okay? And we're looking at the price point of $40. D-Labs is expecting the announcement no later than June 2nd, because that's when pre-orders will go live, so that should be a State of Play announcement. Maybe we can also then tie the Rayman Origins Enhanced Edition to that event as well, because I think what we'll see is Rayman Legends Retold get announced as something coming out later in the year, but then Rayman Origins Enhanced Edition just releasing right then and there as a shadow drop, so not a problem to me. Seeing Rayman games actually getting announced and then immediately released, that should be a lot of fun. Now, on the Nintendo side, there is this interesting image that's going around for Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave. Nintendo can be pretty angry about this stuff, petty at times, so I'm not going to show you the image itself. You can check out on Go Nintendo. And this was coming off of Reset Era where I first saw it. And this is it seems like an art book for Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave. And we've seen this before with some previous games where there was an art book leak that happened and people even got in trouble. I remember with Pokemon, that was a whole thing. However, you tend to see this stuff when we are getting closer to it going into, say, manufacturing and then release. And we're expecting Fire Emblem to come out this summer. And we're about to go into this. So I'm thinking that Fire Emblem's like an August release. And that would be cool, and I assume it would be dated at a direct that we're expecting to come up here pretty soon. There's also this account over on Twitter, ASDF, and people have been tracking them because they had, for example, the logo for Rayman Legends that had popped up, and they were talking about like the code name for it, and then several other early announcements that were leaked out. So they mentioned that Onimusha Way of the Sword drops September 26th. That appears to be, they say, a typo. They meant September 25th, but they said that after it was pointed out that, hey, September 26th is a Saturday. So I'm just putting that in there because we should see an Onimusha release date here this week, as Capcom is going to be working to set up, of course, their the kind of the holiday season with that. Maybe some DLC stuff as well. IGN has their IGN Live event later on this week, starting June 6th, and they accidentally leaked out Chronos Lazarus, all right? And I don't know if that's DLC and expansion, a whole new Chronos game, but they just kind of put that out there, so there you go. And then Dragon Quest Monsters, The Withered World, that was rated, and we should see a release date for that probably as well this week. So that is expected later on this year. So a lot of stuff happening, and I'm sure more stuff will happen as we start to go into the State of Play tomorrow. Of course, that'll be happening later on in the day. So if anything does get out there, of course, I'll let you guys know tomorrow morning. But very excited. Should be a lot of fun stuff happening this week. And then, of course, going into next. Next up, let's talk about a major delay that has hit Microsoft again, as it has to do with Fable, which... yeah, this is another delay for the game, but like we can see, this is over on their social media account saying this is year. I think it's supposed to say this year is, but all right. This year is packed with incredible games for Xbox players to enjoy. From Halo Campaign Evolved, Gears of War E-Day, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4, to Control Resonant, Star Wars Galactic Racer, and Grand Theft Auto 6. In order to plan our game launches through the holidays in a way that works best for players, we're moving Fable to February 2027 so we can have the dedicated moment it deserves. We're excited to be giving players a major new look at Fable as well as our broader lineup at Xbox Games Showcase on June 7th. Of course, a lot of discussion around this because Fable has been delayed now multiple times, and it's been a while since it was originally announced years and years ago. And hey, look, it's Playground. They typically will make things like Forza Horizon 6, awesome game. It's worked out very, very well for them. And so them shifting over to this action RPG open world style game, still using that Forza engine, I do have questions if maybe they also need more time, of course, to smooth out any bugs. And I mean, look, the thing I will say, they're not wrong when they go over the release lineup. All right, like they mentioned Halo Campaign Evolved. We're expecting that in July. All right, Gears of War E-Day. I'm thinking that's going to come out, I'm going to say September, early October. That's like latest, because they do have to avoid Call of Duty, which is out at the end of October, because they're trying to then also avoid Grand Theft Auto 6. They have Minecraft Dungeons 2, and I'm kind of wondering if that's going to be like an August release for them. So you start to line up all these releases, and you want Fable to be a big thing. You do start to have a hard time figuring out where to slot it in. So if it really gets to that point, and the fact that they are trying to push their subscription service, that Fable should be there to help hold up as a big quarterly release, I don't really know why you overrun things here when, yeah, you can push it out a bit longer and, give them a little more time to iron out any bugs or issues they're having for a smoother launch. Drop it into February. Like, they really shouldn't be in a rush necessarily to launch it if they have all this other stuff ready to go. I do think, though, if there wasn't a Grand Theft Auto 6 this year and they could have slotted Fable in, say, for November, I think they would have. But it's just not in the cards. And I don't think you pushed it out in December. They did that with Indiana Jones, and I don't really know how well that worked out for them, but those December releases typically they make it out in time for the holiday season, but I feel like those are ones that are usually in a very awkward spot. So I do think moving it to February is the right call, but also that means that the expectations for the game continue to rise, and it's already kind of challenging because it's Fable, so it's a storied franchise from, yes, way back in the day, but one people have wanted to return, so you also have to do it right. So here's hoping it works out, but we'll have to wait to February to find out for that. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about another handheld for the PC gaming market, okay? And this one's interesting because it's Intel, and they have had handhelds, or at least their chips in handhelds, especially from MSI with the Claw, but they've continued to work on it. And this is something I was really hoping to see, is Intel start to kind of match up pretty well with AMD, because while I think AMD, they are working to develop their chipsets that work for handheld, they're also kind of looking more and more at AI, and I do get a bit concerned that that's where a lot of their attention is going to shift, and we're kind of left with this Z2 or Z2 Extreme chip longer than we need to be, because there's still a lot of work that has to be done on the efficiency side. So enter Intel with another handheld, yes, but also a chip that could work to, I think, really push the competition in this lower powered space, all right? So this is over on videocards.net, and they detail the MSI Claw 8 EX handheld. Now it's using the Arc G3 Extreme SoC, 14 CPU cores, I think that clocks up to 4.7 gigahertz. The Arc 390 graphics up to, this at 80 watts maximum turbo power. That's kind of ridiculous. The thing a lot of people are interested in is the idea of it going down to, say, 12 watts, and it actually compares pretty favorably to things like AMD's Z2 chipset, as they did show this off a lot in all kinds of different slides with Gamers Nexus. Good video, by the way, to watch, just kind of get an idea as to Intel's path here, because it's still very expensive. Look, it has 32 gigabytes LPDDR5X memory. That is configurable, so maybe you have a manufacturer come in and say, we want a cheaper handheld, let's cut that in half down to 16. They can do that. 1 terabyte SSD, 8-inch, 1920 by 1200, 120 hertz touchscreen display, 80 watt-hour battery. It's expected to come out June 23rd, so in about 3 weeks, global launch. The price is expected to be $1,500, so no, not cheap. But here's the thing, okay? I want to see what else Intel can do with this chipset as we go along, because that's the biggest thing. Intel has always been, in my mind, just dating back, of course, decades now, always been CPU first, and it kind of has an integrated GPU, enough to display visuals. Now, they started to build that up as we went along, because they had like their Iris line and a few others, but it was always big CPU, little GPU. Now you see like Panther Lake and some of the other initiatives they have where it's like big GPU and like medium CPU. And that's what you're seeing here with their latest chipset that's going into these handhelds. They're working on the power efficiency side, but also on the ability to push visuals in games. And I would just like to see the handheld gaming space continue to evolve. And they did mention, like, DRAM is expensive. It is. But investing now for, say, 5 or 6 years in the future, where you have a chip that is very capable, and maybe then DRAM prices have stabilized or come down a bit, now you're thinking of like very compelling hardware handhelds for the price point. That's the hope. I do like to see them investing further in this, and it seems like that is the strategy. So, I mean, you could check out the latest Claw handheld. I'm just more interested in the future and kind of the mentality of these big companies. NVIDIA apparently is going to talk about their own like ARM-based chip coming up here, I think today. I see the three companies, AMD, Intel, and NVIDIA, as that meme of just like, let them fight. And before we go to the comments of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, final call on the Steam Machine price, what are you expecting it to start at? So over the weekend, there was also, it looked like an update where they have the Steam Machine welcome screen that was added in like behind the scenes for an update. And so we're expecting this anytime now. I thought about it. Would they use Jeff's event to announce the thing alongside of a Half-Life game? Maybe. I guess it's possible, but you can see the leading guess here. 64% say $1,000 or more. It makes no sense at $1,000 or more. It really doesn't. Like, I don't know why they come to market with it then, to be honest. I mean, 900's already pushing it. You'd have to bundle in a controller and you have to bundle in, I think, the game, at least then you can go, okay, well, it's $900 minus $160 or $170. So, okay, I can at least see the value of a $730 device then, all right? $1,000 or more, it's like, that's going to be a tough sell. Not necessarily to the initial enthusiasts that are just going to buy it because it's a fun thing to kind of tinker around with, or I can throw it in the living room or something because, look, I spend $2,000 on video cards anyway. This is kind of a fun thing to have. But eventually you'll go through that enthusiast crowd, and then you'll have probably a mainstream who's like, nah, I'll just get a PlayStation or a Switch 2 or something. Or I'll just make my own PC. Doesn't really make sense to invest in this. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Salty Sharks, who says, Modern Warfare 4 are going to take up the entire system storage on the Switch 2. Yeah, it's going to be ugly. We've seen games already that have large file sizes, a Rebirth, and like more than 100 gigabytes. And yeah, that's like half the Switch 2 storage when you account for system allotment of that 256 gigabyte storage. So eventually we'll have a situation where they may as well theme SD cards for Call of Duty. That seems like a perfect market for a game that, yes, can, like, honestly, when I started throwing a lot of the Call of Duties into it's like a Call of Duty app that you launch at this point, like a launcher, ended up being hundreds of gigabytes. I think at one point it was almost 300 gigabytes on the Xbox. So yeah, it has the opportunity then to eclipse the Switch 2 storage size. I'm curious if they managed to get the file size down for the Switch 2, or of course they do the thing where you can pick and choose what you want to install. But no doubt, Call of Duty will be giving that 256 gigabyte storage on the Switch 2 a run for its money. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed last week's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you wanted to see potentially the worst controller I've ever used from way back in the day, where they thought a touch panel will be better than a D-pad. I looked into it, and I'll leave it in a video right below. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.